Hello, welcome back to the Canyon Heights podcast. I'm with Sister Ann Richter today, and we will get started. Welcome back. Ann, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Thanks. Glad to be
Good.
here.
Good. Um, so, um, are you ready? You've been studying hard and prepping.
Yes, I think I know all the answers. I don't
Yeah.
know the questions. I know the answers.
Um, I have full confidence in you. I just
Oh,
know
good.
you guys are a
Thanks.
little anxious, and I understand anxiety. Um,
Yes.
so, tell me about your childhood. What is one of the earliest memories you have?
So I have, because I've been studying and
Uh-huh.
I'm a nerd like that, I have three early memories, and I'm not really sure which one is the earliest.
Okay.
But one, my family was at a reunion at Bear Lake. And I remember being in the sand when it was too hot and not having shoes. So I remember crying in the sand because my feet were burning.
Okay.
And my mom sent my uncle to rescue me. So that's one.
Okay.
Um, I also remember my family lived in Idaho Falls when for 5 years, and I had a Cabbage Patch doll that I played with that had red hair like me. And I remember playing with the doll and noticing that her hair matched the carpet in my room. So I had lovely red orange carpet in my bedroom at the time. And then another critical memory, I'm sure had lasting impact on my life. I remember nap
I
time
think
in
this is
kindergarten.
sarcasm coming.
Never for me. No, I remember getting chocolate milk and having nap time in kindergarten.
All
So
right. Well, as someone who absolutely hates chocolate, I think that is the least important memory I've ever heard. I'm just
darn it.
just joking, kind of.
Well, I'll eat all the chocolate for you.
Um, so, tell me about your family growing up.
So I have two brothers, one older, one younger.
Okay,
I'm the middle child and the only girl and the only redhead, incidentally.
okay.
Um,
It that includes your parents. Neither of them have red hair.
mm-mm.
Okay,
Yep. I have an aunt. My dad's youngest sister is a redhead,
okay,
but I'm the only one in my immediate family.
okay. So tell me about your brothers.
So my older brother is an IT guy, and he lives in Tucson. Has two sons. My younger brother is an elementary school teacher. He lives in White Rock, and he has five kids.
And what were they like growing up? How close were you guys?
Um, we were pretty close. We were close, but we didn't necessarily get along.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure my older brother and I ganged up on my younger brother most of the time.
Okay.
Um, but we're all about 2 years apart, so we grew up very much in each other's space.
Yeah. Um, Tell me about your mom and dad, please.
So my dad is from Texas. He's a nerd. He is a nuclear engineer. He worked his almost his whole career at Los Alamos National Labs. And my mom is from Salt Lake. She's an artist. She does commercial design. So they're about as different as they can be. They met in Boston, of all places, and here we are.
Um, Explain commercial design. What?
So now it's um, desktop publishing. You do it all on the computer. But
Okay.
when my mom was doing it, like you created your own fonts and made flyers and everything by hand because that was before
Okay.
desktop publishing was a thing.
Okay. Cool. Um, what what was elementary school like?
Um, Probably idyllic. I grew up, so my parents met in Boston. Then we lived in Idaho for 5 years. And then we moved to White Rock, which is the little teeny suburb next to Los Alamos. So I grew up primarily in White Rock. It's a small town, it's very quiet. Um, and elementary school was lovely.
Yeah.
I don't,
Lots of lots of friends then. Um,
yeah.
what did you do as a kid? What did you like doing with your friends?
Um, we spent a lot of time on the trampoline, a lot of time at the pool in the summer, and a lot of time riding bikes all over town because it's a small town.
Yeah. I remember riding bikes around in Rio Rancho. That was before it exploded. Um,
Right.
there was nothing uh, on nothing to the north of Northern Boulevard at that time.
Yeah. That's quite different.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It was very different. There were we were there when they built the elementary school Stapleton right nearby.
Okay.
We'd go out and see the big tractors moving dirt.
Uh-huh.
Um, any so was your were your family were you all members of the church?
Yep. All of us.
Okay. Um, can you remember any special times growing up, being taught the gospel, having family home evening, doing fun things as a family?
Um, I remember coming home from school one day. It was probably fourth or fifth grade. I'm being completely amazed. We had just learned about the pyramids in Central America, like the Maya and Aztec culture. We had covered that. And something, I can't remember exactly what came up, but somehow my teacher had connected like the pyramids and the culture that we find in Central America is related to the culture in Egypt and the Middle East. And I came home because I was so amazed at this connection. And when I told
Yeah,
my mom, she said, "Well, yeah, we know how that happened." And yeah, that was the first time that like school and church actually collided for me.
yeah, awesome. Um, how did what did your how did things change as you grew up in middle school and high school? Like interacting with your friends. You said you rode bikes a lot and that kind of thing. How did social things develop? Maybe
I
that's an
think
awkward way to
more of it
put
had
it.
to do with with people moving away. So my
Okay,
best friend in elementary school moved away, like I guess right after sixth grade. So then I had new friends, and and it just kind of evolved as we all grew up, and some moved in and some moved out. And
right,
as we go to middle school, you can become friends with the kids from the other elementary schools,
right,
and your circle of friends just expands.
cool. So, what electives did you take in middle school?
In middle school, I took shop
Yeah,
and um, I believe I did a foreign language survey class. So we tried Spanish, French, and German for different sections of the year. I ended up taking French for a few years after that
in
um,
high school or still
in high
during
school.
high school?
Yep.
What did you like about French?
Um, well, I picked French. My mom went on a mission to France, so
Okay.
she spoke French, and then that the best friend who moved away, her mom was actually from Belgium, so they all spoke French at home, and I had heard it but never understood any of it. So it's kind of how I ended up in French.
Cool. Um, Tell me about shop class. That's not a class you hear about nowadays.
No, well, I fancy myself. I don't know. I don't fancy myself anything. I like power tools.
Yeah.
Um, and so building stuff or attempting to build stuff is fun. And that shop in middle school was the first opportunity that there was to, you know, take such a class and actually get to play with saws and drills and everything else. So I signed up.
So shop class has nothing to do with learning how to shop.
No, no, it's a wood shop.
Yeah. I knew that, but for in case there's any young people
Right.
listening, uh, they just don't have that anymore. But when I was in middle school, my dad would come, and he was the lathe man, is what they
Oh,
called him,
cool.
because he showed him how to work on the lathe. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah. Um, Tell me about high school then.
Um, so in high school, somewhere along the line in high school, I decided that I needed to work really hard and get through as much as I could in high school, get through college as fast as possible. So I took lots of AP classes, um, enough that like when I actually went to college, I had 3 semesters of credit hours under my belt.
Wow.
So I don't really know why I was in such a big hurry, but I I was in a hurry from like the beginning of high school until I graduated from college. So I worked hard in high school. Um, I also started working when I was in high school. Had a couple of different jobs then. Um,
So you were taking normal high school, advanced, like college kind of stuff, and working at the same time.
yeah.
So, how many credit hours were, or how many classes did you have at any one time?
So I
Normal.
never had more than I think seven. Like the normal, I had the normal school schedule. I didn't ever take like extra after hour type of classes. I was just fully loaded all the time.
Oh, the extra credits were from the just the AP
Yes.
classes, the advanced nature. Okay,
Yep.
cool. Yeah, I took one concurrent enrollment class. I took the ASVAB test, and they said that I didn't have to take English 101. So
Nice.
I took English 102 in high school, and then in my college years, I never had to take any English. So that was nice. I was good at it, but so you liked learning a lot then. What particular areas fascinated you? It sounds like
My Go
kind of
ahead.
across the board. Sorry, but
Yeah, I my favorite class was chemistry. Um, I had a really Actually, I had a couple of really good teachers, and it was interesting, and I was decent at it. I could figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Um, but I hated physics. Physics was terrible. So um, I don't
So
know.
did you not like math then?
No, I like math. I do. I mean, that's what I do every day now. I do math for my career. Um, but yeah, physics, I just didn't click, didn't care. It wasn't my thing.
Do you have any guess or why inkling what part of it uh, you didn't like? Because to me, it just seems like physics is science with math. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah. Apparently, I don't like to mix. I like math over here and
okay,
science over here, and not mixed up.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, and how is English?
English, English and history were fine. They were interesting. I Yeah,
Okay,
they were just there.
all right. Um, so um, you mentioned coming home that day after school and incorporating school with the scriptures. Tell me about the continuation of that journey. How did um, spirituality develop throughout your life? And was there uh, a lot of crossover points like that? Um, or,
Let's see. So I don't know if there's a lot of crossover moments
okay,
specifically. So I did early morning seminary all through high school, and
okay,
that that was certainly different from what my friends were doing. It meant we always got the good parking places at because we had seminary at the high school. Um,
okay,
so we got first dibs on parking spots, which was always nice. But it, as much as I hated getting up early and being at school so early, it became a really good way to start the day, to um, to set the tone. And I probably didn't realize it very much at the time, um, but looking back now, I can appreciate it.
okay. So you graduate from high school. What
Yep.
does life look like at that point?
Um, well, I ended up going to Dixie College for my undergrad. Um, I was all set to go to BYU. I had housing lined up. There was a scholarship. All I needed to do was send in my application. And when it came right down to it, um, I couldn't make myself write the essay. I was just done with homework and
Yeah.
essays. And so Dixie College didn't, I mean, it was all multiple choice and check boxes on the application. I didn't have to write an essay. So I went to Dixie,
Okay.
um,
Where is
which
Dixie?
Dixie's in St. George, Utah. It's now
Okay.
called Utah Technical College.
Okay.
But my older brother had gone to Dixie. He was on his mission my freshman year, but I knew we would overlap when he came home. So that helped sway me to
Okay.
go to Dixie.
What role has missionary service played in your life?
Um, Directly in my life, none. I did not go on a mission, but both of my brothers and both of my parents served missions.
You said your mom went to France, right?
Yes.
Where did the others go?
So my dad went to the Netherlands. My older brother went to Chicago, and my younger brother went to Oregon.
Nice. Um,
Yep.
Okay. Um, so sorry, I I feel more at a loss right now for some reason. You're
That's
you're
okay.
you're stumping me. You're intimidating me. My brain's shutting down.
Uh-oh.
um,
I'll try to be better.
it's not your fault. Um, talk to me about Paul.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Well, so how did you meet? I mean, we got his version of the story. What's yours?
Okay. So I was quizzing him before this interview tonight to see what he said, so that I don't contradict him too much. But we met at work. Paul was actually my boss. Um, so I worked at Los Alamos National Bank. I actually started there when I was in high school, and then came back full time after I finished college. Um, and so Paul was working at the time at Enterprise Bank and Trust, based in Kansas City. And Enterprise bought Los Alamos National Bank. So we had this merger. And as part of the merger, Paul moved from Kansas City back to Albuquerque. He grew up in Albuquerque, so he wanted to move home. And so we met when his bank bought my bank, and he became my boss. Um, we worked together for a couple of years, and then during COVID, became friends, and then started dating, and here we are, married. He's not my boss anymore.
That, that's good,
Right?
right?
HR saw to that.
Um, though I guess that could work. I haven't heard much of that. Um, um, man, I'm. Uh, so, what drew you to Paul?
um, he's he's a very organized and responsible person, so it was really easy to work for him and to work with him. Um, but I think what really drew me to him is that he's a rather sentimental person. So that was different from what I'd seen in
Yeah.
other coworkers and in other friends.
Okay. Um, what shared experiences did you find you had like before you crossed your paths? Um,
Before we crossed
before
paths.
you met, like
Well,
commonalities.
we both grew up in New Mexico, although Los Alamos and Albuquerque are very different. Um, but 90s grunge music was was a big um, commonality.
Okay.
Um, let's see what else. Um, Running and being active. I guess we both started after high school running, and you know trying different races and all of that. So that was more common ground. And then music, like playing music rather than listening to music. We both play piano, and then Paul, of course, plays trombone as well. So it's,
Okay.
there was more overlap.
Um, so growing up in the church, you have lots of callings. Right now, you're the Young Women's President.
Yes.
Um, what is um, what is that like, and is that your first time serving as a president? Uh,
Nope.
Church.
Um, so
Tell me
Young Women is
about your
lovely.
calling journey.
My calling journeys.
Yeah.
Um, Like from the very beginning?
Well, as an adult.
As an adult. Okay. Um, so I spent several years in the young single adult world. I was the warden stake rep for young single adults in Santa Fe Stake. And then I got called to the regional young single adult. I think we were called a committee. You were on it too, Gregory. We were on that same committee for a while. So I did the young adult. I called myself the cruise director, planning activities and getting people involved. I did that for a number of years, and then I was called as a young women teacher for a handful of years, and from then I got called as a sunbeam teacher, which was almost perfect. My ideal, the calling I want the most is a nursery leader, and I've sunbeam teacher was this close. I was so close, but I only had that calling for 2 weeks, and then then I got moved into Stake Relief Society, and from there I went became the Stake Young Women president. This was all still in Santa Fe Stake, um, and I did Stake Young Women for almost 5 years. And I was released from that and got called back into Ward Young Women. And I got released from that when I got married and moved to Albuquerque, and then went back to Relief Society for almost a year, and then back to Young Women's. And so I've come to the conclusion that I'm really just not mature enough for Relief Society, and Young Women's is the place where I
Yeah, see,
belong.
that wasn't where my mind was going. My mind was interested in um, you're working a lot with the rising generation, and I just have a lot of questions about what you've
Okay.
learned about them, and um, their role in the future, what they're like, and and yeah.
They're amazing. Let's see. I mean, really, they are um, they're inherent leaders, and all they need is um, just a little push to get started, or some guidance on how to approach something, and they'll blow you away. Sorry, I'm a big crybaby. You'll learn if you ever hear me speak or teach in church. The tears start before I even talk, but um, yeah, I'm I'm always impressed. I'm with the young women, especially because I work with them the most. But the young men are certainly no different. They are um, we're in good hands. They'll do amazing things. They already are.
um, what kind of things have you seen?
Um, let's see. Um, so I've been on Trek with them twice,
With
and
Paul as well, right?
yeah, so I went once as a single mom in
Okay.
Santa Fe State before I was married, and then Paul and I went in the summer of 2022 on Trek as
Okay.
Ma and Pa. Both of these were in the Santa Fe State, um, and Trek is hard. I mean, it's brutal. There's the first trek was in Wyoming, and the second one was in southern Colorado, and the whole course was above 10,000 feet. So, um, but both times, the the kids get up and they work hard and they pull the carts. And they're out in the heat and the wind all day, and they're still happy. They're still helpful, and they jump right in to pull the cart or to play the games, or whatever is happening. They're all in, and the adults, we're kind of dragging behind and hoping to catch up. And I've also seen um, lots of times when the girls are just um, sensitive and aware of the needs of them, of um, their friends or the other girls in the class that they may not know very well, and they'll reach out, and it'll be just the right thing for that girl to feel like she belongs and that she matters.
Is it intimidating when you're working with them, or is it?
Um,
Um,
the first couple weeks, yes, until they realize that I'm just a big crybaby, and they get used to me saying dumb stuff, and then it's all fine.
okay.
I set the bar low, and then then it's okay.
Okay. Um, what experiences have you had in your life where you have clear the most clearly saw the hand of God in your life?
Within Young Women's,
Um, there and without, both places.
okay. Um, so within Young Women's, certainly planning girls' camp is it's a major undertaking, and um, you work for months and months and try and figure out you know the plan, and then the backup plan, and the backup to the backup plan, and the Armageddon plan when everything breaks, and we all just have to go home, or there's so many layers there. um, and then when
How
you get to camp,
often has Armageddon happened?
zero.
Okay.
It's never happened, but there's always been a plan. But then you get to camp and things work out better than you planned. um, the right person happens to walk through the door right when you need them, or something didn't happen according to plan, but instead something better came of it that you know I had never anticipated, and would not have happened if I had interfered. um, so definitely, um, girls camp is kind of a microscope of how God works in through our efforts and in our lives. Um, Outside of that, I would definitely point to um, Paul's Enterprise Bank merging with Los Alamos National Bank, and bringing Paul into my life, because certainly didn't see that one coming. Um, I'd been working happily at LA&B for like 15 years at the time, and never would have anticipated, one, that the bank would sell, and two, that I would get my husband out of the deal.
That is a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
It's a really good deal.
it worked out.
So he's and I asked him this question. So he's not a member. You are. in today's society, there's a lot of contention and disunity, and usually the top of the list of wisdom that people have when they are talking about division is whatever you do, don't talk about politics or religion.
Uh-huh.
Um, so, how have you guys made that work? What have you discovered about
Um,
that?
I think really it comes down to Paul is very open. Um, he's willing to consider it all. He's willing to come to church with me. Um, I don't feel like I've contributed much. I mean, it's I've always gone to church and I've always been an active member, and I still am. And Paul comes with me because he has a good heart and he's willing. Um, Something that I think we both really enjoy is general conference talks, um, because there is so much clamor and cancel culture, and everything you hear in the world is just so very different, from the general conference messages. And you I think anyone can can recognize that and appreciate the wisdom, and both in the gospel sense and just in a daily life sense that the apostles and prophets share.
Great. Um, I know you're not supposed to have them, but any favorite apostles? Who's uh, especially who does Paul and you? Who do you?
So um, I really like Elder Holland. Of course, I really like all of them, but Elder Holland and Elder Christofferson and Elder Renland are probably my favorites. Um, Paul, he refers to them as his grandpas. He adopts them as his grandpas. So Dallin Oaks and Garrett Gong, I believe, are his adopted grandpas.
Garrett Gong. He was my stake president when I was at BYU
Oh, cool.
uh, for a little while. So yeah, it's neat knowing someone, or at
Yeah, definitely.
least to be like, I was in his office, like he talked with me and
Huh?
interviewed me and,
Right?
and
He
stuff.
knows my name.
What?
I said he knows your name.
Yeah, he knows. Well, he knew my name.
Okay. He's met some people since then.
Yeah, he 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 was already meeting with the apostles back then.
Hmm.
Um, so, but what has nurtured your testimony the most during your adult life?
Um, let's see. I would say, um, just staying in the rhythm of going to church on Sundays and reading scriptures and saying my prayers, that having that routine in place, um, provides stability in in the world and in my life that is often a mess. Um, and definitely, um, partaking of the sacrament each week as a reset, both both in the sense of the sacrament and renewing covenants, but also just like a reboot, um, of the computer when when things are not working out and you call IT and they say, "Well, did you restart your machine?" And then
Right.
everything is fine after that. So I consider sacrament meeting restarting my machine.
Um, so you play the piano.
I do.
Um, so what role does sacred music have in your life?
Um, it's it's probably my calming mechanism. Um, I like to just play piano to, you know, empty my mind. But I listen to I have a Pandora channel on that's the Tabernacle Choir and other like sacred music that plays pretty much 40 hours a week when I'm at work. It's just always on in the background.
Okay. Is that a shared background music, or are you just wearing headphones?
So I don't wear headphones, but I'm in an office, so it's only me.
Okay. Um, so they just started releasing the new
The
hymn
new,
book.
uh huh.
Uh, any thoughts on that?
I'm excited,
Yeah,
especially for "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing."
yeah. Why do you like that hymn so much? And I
Um,
ask that in part because I was listening to the Church News podcast, and they were talking about the new hymn book, and they said, uh, far and away, that was the most requested song hymn to be in the new hymnal. So how do you feel drawn to that?
um, I don't, I don't have the technical knowledge or vocabulary, but um, something about the melody.
Okay.
I think it connects with me and with most everybody because it's most requested, and you know if when I've played it as a special musical number in church, there's always lots of comments about how that's my favorite song or that was my mother's favorite song. It's always a favorite. And then the lyrics, I think, um, are just entirely relatable and applicable to to everybody's life.
Awesome. Um, so before I ask you the closing question for this
Hmm.
interview, um, are there any areas that I haven't hit on that are key Ann Richter uh, areas, things that people should know about Ann?
There might be, but I can't.
Hobbies?
They're not going to come to mind.
What about hobbies?
Hobbies. Um, well, I like to play the piano, and I like to travel.
Where have
I
you gone?
um a number of places. I've been to Cambodia. That was my first passport stamp. It was Cambodia. I've been all over Europe, um, to a couple places in Central America and the Caribbean, and most recently we went to Brazil and Argentina.
Awesome. What do you like about traveling, visiting those places?
Um, I like to try different foods, and I really just like to see how different places operate, how life looks somewhere far away from home.
What drew you to Cambodia, since that was the first?
So it was my roommate when I went to graduate school in Hawaii, and my roommate there, her parents were on a mission in Phnom Penh, and so she was going to see her parents and invited me to come along.
Okay. Um, any big lessons that you've learned as you've traveled around the world? Um,
Um, let's see. Credit cards work everywhere.
that's good.
Uh, take melatonin on long flights.
Okay. Um,
Um,
how
learn how to
how
say please and thank you in the language where you're visiting.
yeah. Um, what similarities have you seen with the people? Um,
Um, generally, people are nice. They're helpful and friendly, and they'll.
yeah,
It's just interesting to observe and see people.
yeah. A lot of us don't get to meet that broad of a range of our spiritual brothers and sisters.
No,
So that's why I was curious.
yeah,
Uh,
I think mostly people are pretty similar. They're different customs and different languages, but generally people are nice and willing to help out.
all right. Um, Last question.
All right.
If you could send one message 100 years into the future for your posterity to hear, what would it be?
So I've been thinking about this, um, and it actually came from an autocorrect mistake when I was texting a friend. I was trying to write "hold on tight," um, and autocorrect changed it to "hold on right," and it's kind of stuck with me. Um, so hold on tight and hold on right, um, because God God never gives up on us. So we can trust him and we should never give up on him. Um, yeah, that would be my message.
Awesome. And Richter, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Um, and that concludes this week's episode of the Canyon Heights Ward podcast. We'll see who we meet next. Hopefully, we'll meet the bishop soon. I hear he's kind of busy right now, so
Imagine that.
I don't know who's next, but it's been a pleasure. Yeah. So.
Thank you.